Most people get Spain wrong. They picture a beach chair, a plate of paella, an afternoon nap, and they stop right there. Like, that's the whole story. It isn't. We're talking about a city that's been building the exact same masterpiece for over 140 years, and it still isn't finished. A bridge strung across a gorge so deep it swallows the sound of your own footsteps. Volcanic islands sitting closer to Africa than to mainland Europe, where snow rests on a summit while people sunbathe at its base. I went to every one of these places myself, so you know exactly what to expect before you land here. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. The single best place on this entire list isn't the famous one. It's a village most travelers have never once heard of. So if you've ever wondered why people don't just visit Spain, they fall in love with it, stay right here. Top Tier Travels presents The Wonders of Spain, and why it's nearly impossible not to fall for it. Hey everyone, I'm Finn Lee, a travel enthusiast obsessed with finding the world's most unforgettable destinations. Right now I'm standing on a rooftop in the Gothic Quarter, the towers of an unfinished cathedral just visible behind me. After driving this entire country coast to coast, completely different picture. Let's go find out exactly why people don't just visit this country. Barcelona. Barcelona lives two lives at once, the old soul of the Gothic Quarter, and the version that climbs toward the sky in curves, courtesy of one architect who treated stone like it was still alive. His unfinished masterpiece stops people mid-sentence, towers still rising after more than 140 years of continuous construction. Book your entry to the towers in advance. Same-day tickets sell out days ahead in peak season. Then there's the food. Small plates and cold glasses that explain this city better than any monument does. Girona and Cadaqués. Girona's pastel houses mirror themselves in a narrow river, and one of its bridges carries the signature of the same engineer behind the Eiffel Tower, built years before his tower in Paris. Toward the coast, Cadaqués is the most isolated village on the Costa Brava, the kind of isolation that drew Salvador Dalí to spend much of his life just outside it. Take the train to Girona as a half-day trip from Barcelona, then continue by car to Cadaqués. Two towns, one coastline, neither trying to impress you. The road east eventually leads inland toward the restless heart of the country. Quick reminder while we're at it, subscribing is free, and it's genuinely the best way to catch every guide I put out. Madrid. Sitting higher above sea level than almost any other capital in Europe, Madrid never slows down. People sip coffee under the arcades of Plaza Mayor for hours, and inside the Prado sits one of the most extraordinary painting collections on Earth. Set aside at least half a day for the Prado alone. Madrid doesn't perform for tourists. It just keeps living the way it always has. Less than an hour away sit two towns from a completely different century, Toledo and Segovia. Toledo's narrow streets climb past former swordsmith workshops beneath an imposing fortress, the city El Greco painted under a dramatic, stormy sky. A short drive away, Segovia holds a Roman aqueduct that stood for 2,000 years, built from massive granite blocks without a single drop of mortar. Visit both towns in one day if you're based in Madrid. They're close enough to justify the double stop. North of Madrid sits a city that glows a completely different color at sunset. If you're finding these worth your time, tap subscribe. It really does help this channel keep going. Salamanca. Every building in this city's old center turns honey-colored at sunset, thanks to a local sandstone that shifts shade with the light. This is one of the oldest university towns in Europe, and its central square is considered one of the most beautiful in the entire country. Time your visit for late afternoon. That stone earns its reputation in the hour before sunset. Salamanca doesn't need dramatic geography to earn its spot. The stone alone does the work. The road curves back south toward a gorge that splits a town clean in half. Ronda. Suspended in mid-air and split into two halves by a gorge roughly 100 meters deep, A single stone bridge links both sides of this town. The view of it from below is more dramatic than the view from on top. From this ridge, the land flattens out into the beating cultural heart of southern Spain. Seville. This is the birthplace of flamenco, and in its smaller taverns it isn't staged, it's a release. At the center of the old town rises a soaring tower you can climb by ramp instead of stairs, and nearby sits Plaza de España, one of the most striking public squares in Europe. Catch a flamenco performance in a small local tavern rather than a tourist theater. The difference in intensity is immediate. Seville doesn't ease you into its energy, it just hands it to you. Following the river out to the coast leads to a city older than almost anywhere else on the continent. Cádiz. Surrounded by ocean on nearly every side, this is possibly the oldest continuously inhabited city in Europe, more than 3,000 years of layered history in one narrow strip of land. On La Caleta beach, wedged between two old fortresses, the sun drops straight into the ocean most evenings. Walk the seafront at golden hour, La Caleta specifically. The light between the two fortresses is unlike anywhere else on this coast. And it's on this same Atlantic shoreline that this country's journey through the south quietly comes to a close. Real quick, before we keep going, remember that hidden village I mentioned at the start, the one most travelers have never heard of? We're still a ways off from it. That's still coming too. The second half of this list gets stranger than the first. Balearic Islands. 4 islands resembling each other only a little, like distant sisters who grew up in different houses. Mallorca is the big one, mountains dropping into the sea. Menorca is the quiet one, hidden coves of clear water. Ibiza sleeps by day and lights up hard by night. And Formentera, the smallest, holds an ancient underwater seagrass meadow among the oldest living organisms on the planet. Island hop by ferry instead of flying, the crossings offer some of the best views of the whole trip. 4 islands, 1 sea, 4 completely different personalities. Other Spanish islands sit much farther out, where the sea turns to open ocean and the land turns almost black. Canary Islands. 7 volcanic islands closer to Africa than to mainland Spain. On Tenerife rises a volcano still very much alive, the highest point in the entire country, snow often sitting at the summit while people sunbathe on the beach below. On Lanzarote, old lava flows have carved a landscape that looks almost lunar, vines growing in individual pits dug into black ash. Book the volcano's cable car well in advance, permits and slots fill up fast in high season. From these remote islands, this trip heads back toward the mainland and the warm sun of the south. Malaga. Facing the sea and warmed by sun nearly every day of the year, this is the bright gateway to Spain's southern coast. Pablo Picasso was born here, and above the harbor an old hilltop fortress climbs the slope with gardens and fountains overlooking the sea. Visit the Picasso Museum in the morning, then walk up to the hilltop fortress in late afternoon. Malaga doesn't chase the spotlight, it just quietly earns it. Following the coast north brings us to another great city facing the water. Valencia. This is where paella actually originated, the real version, made with rice, rabbit, chicken, and beans. A river that once ran through the city was diverted after a major flood, and the old riverbed became a long green park, at the end of which sits a cluster of white, futuristic buildings that look like they landed from somewhere else. Rent a bike and ride the old riverbed park end to end. It's the best way to see the whole city without a car. Valencia proves a city can reinvent its own geography and still feel like it was always meant to look this way. Flying north, green and rain sketch out a very different version of this country. San Sebastián. Curving around a nearly perfect shell-shaped bay, this is arguably the most elegant city on this coastline. In the bars of the old town, counters overflow with small bites eaten standing up, one bar hopping straight into the next. A little further west along this same coast waits its bigger, tougher sister city, Bilbao. For centuries, this city lived off its port and its steel, then the industries shut down almost overnight. Then one building arrived and changed its fate, a museum wrapped in gleaming, curved steel unlike anything else on Earth, and the city came roaring back to life. Visit the museum at night as well as during the day. The lighting on the steel curves changes character after dark. Few cities have staged a comeback quite this literal. A little further west, the pace slows down considerably. If this is the kind of city you'd want to see for yourself, subscribing means you catch every guide like it going forward. Santander. Once the summer retreat of Spain's own royal family, this city wraps around a wide, elegant bay, lined with pale buildings and the quiet air of a resort town built for a slower era. Walk the Magdalena Peninsula Loop in late afternoon. The light off the bay is softer here than almost anywhere else on this coast. This is true northern Spain. Cooler air, quieter mornings. Continuing west, the green only gets deeper, and the mountains only get wilder. Picos de Europa and Asturias walls of limestone rise straight out of the sea here, jagged peaks climbing past 2,500 meters. Brown bears still live in these mountains, slowly recovering after nearly vanishing. Down along the coast, apple orchards and wild beaches open between cliffs. Take the cable car up in the morning and hike back down if you're reasonably fit. The light on the descent is far better. This is the side of Spain that almost never makes the postcards, and that's exactly the appeal. Heading inland, the mountains give way to a smaller kingdom with one very famous tradition. One more reminder before we close this out. Subscribe now so the rest of these guides land right in your feed. Navarre. Its capital is known worldwide for one thing: a run through narrow streets with several very large, very fast animals a few feet behind you every July. But Navarre is far more than that 1 week. The land climbs north through beech forests and green valleys into the Pyrenees. If you're attending the bull run itself, watch from a balcony or barrier rather than the street. It's one of the most adrenaline-charged traditions in Europe, and the country around it stays this quiet the other 51 weeks of the year. And now, to close this list, a place that time itself seems to have forgotten. Albarracin. At the bottom of a gorge, clinging to red rock as if it grew straight out of it, this small village's houses carry an antique shade of pink, built from the same red earth as the mountains around them. Hidden in the pines nearby, caves hold rock paintings thousands of years old. Stay overnight if you can manage it. This village is a completely different, quieter place once the day trippers clear out. And it's right here, in this silence carved into red rock, that this journey finally comes to an end. Last reminder, if you want the rest of this series as it comes out, subscribing is the way to make sure you see it. From an unfinished masterpiece in Barcelona to a village so hidden it barely shows up on a map, from volcanic islands closer to Africa than to Europe, to a bridge suspended over a gorge deep enough to swallow sound itself, this country never really settles into one identity. The 3 postcards everyone already pictures, the beach, the paella, the nap, aren't wrong exactly. They're just the cover of a much longer book. People don't fall in love with Spain because of any single place on this list. They fall for it because just when you think you figured the country out, it quietly shows you something else entirely. Out of everywhere on this list, which one are you already planning to book? Ronda's bridge over the gorge, the Canary Islands volcano, or Albarracin's hidden red village? Tell me below. I read through as many of these as I possibly can. And if hidden gems tucked inside a famous country are exactly your thing, go check out the video I posted right before this one, Wonders of Greece, a very different coastline, but just as many surprises packed into one country. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm Finn Lee. See you out there.